video for the first time on my new contraption. I'm on a stand-up desk and a treadmill underneath me, and this is how I do my work now. My next video I'll be sharing tomorrow will be me on this treadmill and sharing with you guys how I actually put this together and how I save a bunch of money. So aside from that, you're going to see me bouncing up and down today, and I've got two screens, so I'm testing this whole theory. But anyway, I wanted to get to a question. I just got back from a really awesome workshop with about 2,000 chiropractors from all around the country. Mercola was there and all kinds of other amazing people like Jeffrey Smith, who's trying to spread the word about GMOs, which inspired me because I was like, you know, one of the questions that you guys have been asking me lately is what is the best sweetener to use if you're going to use them at all? So I will say that first of all, sweeteners of any kind are really not good for anybody who has insulin issues or high blood pressure or high cholesterol or who is diabetic or if you're overweight. I think that you should avoid all sweeteners and just really start to get the knack for how food really tastes instead of numbing our taste buds with all these sweeteners. And that includes stevia, since any kind of sweetener can decrease your insulin sensitivity. And as you guys have known from all the different kinds of talks that I've done, our whole health is hinging on our blood sugar regulation. Anyway, so definitely let's get back to the sweeteners in order. And I'm going to start with the good and on the bad and just tell you a couple little things about why that some things are good and why some things are bad. So just kind of get it. Okay, so the first things that I recommend, stevia drops, one of my favorite things. I use this in a lot of stuff if I do want to sweeten things. You know, this is just pure stevia leaf, and it's got some natural flavoring. They come in different flavors like vanilla and coconut and things like that, chocolate, whatever you guys want. Or you just get the plain, just non-sweetened version, but that's 100% stevia. This one is also pure, 100% pure organic stevia. That's by Cal. This one is more of a powder, so you could take this with you in your purse. You can get a smaller version of it and just take little scoopfuls of it. Stevia is a plant that actually comes from indigenous sources of, I think it's South Africa. What plant? Yeah, South America, sorry. South America, and it's 1,000 times sweeter than sugar, so you're not going to need much of this stuff. If you are going to be using any kind of sweeteners in a recipe, one of the things that I do recommend is this coconut sugar, organic coconut palm sugar. And the reason I recommend this, this actually tastes like brown sugar. So if you're going to put it in there, this has substance to it. Stevia, you don't need to use very much of it. So if you need to put substance in something like cookies and stuff like that, if you're making some healthy cookies, this is actually good for you. It's got a really low glycemic index of about 35. And it still has all the micronutrients in it. So we haven't like processed all those out. This is one of the ones that I really like. And it's organic. So notice that. Organic. Very, very important because one of the top 5 genetically modified organisms in terms of food in our food system today is sugar beet. So anytime you see sugar in anything, and it doesn't say organic sugar or cane sugar, organic cane sugar, it is genetically modified. And that's, GMOs are killing us. Okay, so that's that one. And the next one that I really, really like is honey. So this is my local honey. I got this one local. Orange blossom is not as good for you as like eucalyptus is a little bit better. Avocado, they come in all different kinds. But the ones that I like, you know, that one tastes best, orange blossom. But other ones are like alfalfa. You know, alfalfa and clover, those are the better ones for us. But just do note, honey is something that is higher on the glycemic index. It's about 70% fructose. And for people who have fructose malabsorption problems like SIBO or IBS, might not be a very good thing for you in excess. Nothing is good for you in excess, but 1 teaspoon of honey is about 4 grams of fructose. And I recommend no more than 15. If you're getting 25 and over, you're starting to get into a lot of negative health ramifications and disease. So be very conscious about that. Honey is also good for people who have allergies. The only time it's ever good for you if it's local and raw. So that honey that you saw is from my local farmer's market, and it's raw. It hasn't been heat pasteurized, which means that all the good positive nutrients have been killed out of it. Just remember that 75% of the honeys at your grocery store are not even real honey. It's fake. It's genetically modified sugars and colorings, artificial food dye. So keep that in mind. Local, raw, organic honey. Very important. Okay, the next two that I really like, I'm not really like, but they're, you know, one of the better alternatives are these two, Xylitol and Maltitol. Now these are both sugar alcohols. They typically are derived from corn, so you want to make sure that it says organic on it because corn is another one of the top 5 organically modified substances that are out there. So those two sugar alcohols, and as such, they're not going to have an impact on our sugar and insulin levels. They're not going to have as much of an impact as just regular glucose or fructose, but they still can be very, very aggravating to the gut. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, the next thing, and actually if I have any of those two sugar alcohols, my gut starts to get really upset because about 80% of it has to be handled by the liver, and our liver already has 500 jobs, so why would we put it through more? Okay, the last ones that I definitely don't like, these are the popular ones too, so you guys are going to hate me for this perhaps, but sorry, organic, even though it says organic, agave. Okay, I have to dispel the myths on agave. Unfortunately, most agave is nothing more than a laboratory generated, like, super condensed fructose syrup. And it has no nutritional value, and it really just doesn't have anything to contribute other than fructose and calories. And what's happening here is that they're marketing as a diabetic-friendly sugar or low glycemic index, and it's not going to spike your blood sugar. While it does have a lower glycemic index, which means it's not going to spike your blood sugar too high, so too does antifreeze, but it doesn't mean it's good for you, right? So it has a higher fructose content than most commercial sweeteners. In fact, it ranges from like 55 to 97%. But get this, it also depends on the brand. 55 to 97% of it is comprised of fructose, which is so much higher than high fructose corn syrup, which is only 55%. So if you compare those two, which one's worse for you? Honey is at about 70%. But just because honey is at 70% and high fructose corn syrup is at 55 doesn't mean that honey is worse for you. It just means you just need to keep all these things in mind, keep them in moderation. High fructose corn syrup is highly engineered, highly processed. So too is agave nectar. So I'm sorry, you guys. I know a lot of vegans have these at restaurants and stuff. Just not a health food. Sorry. Okay, so let's move along. And the last thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, fructose is something that a lot of us are eating just too much of, and fructose is in fruit. It's not like fruit is bad for you. Some people actually can't even digest fruit that well, and that includes me because I have SIBO, and SIBO implies IBS. So if you have gastrointestinal problems, be very, very aware and cautious of that, and just listen to your body. It's not that fructose is bad for you, but because it's in so many things, and your body will metabolize fructose in a different way than glucose. So fructose is actually broken down in your liver, just like drinking alcohol, and it produces a lot of side effects of chronic alcohol use, right down to the beer belly. So if you're having a problem with your belly, well, then you got to look at the sources of food, and if you're getting fructose in too many different sources. I hear a lot of my clients have way too much fruit. They're like, oh, I have a fruit smoothie. I have like 8 different things of fruit. Very, very cautious about that. People are overdosing on fruit, and just because it's fruit doesn't mean it's always good for you. It's everything in moderation. People today are consuming fructose in quantities that are 400 to 800% higher than they were 100 years ago because it's just about in everything, and we've switched over to that from glucose. Okay, so remember, fructose turns to fat and makes you fat. Glucose is used by the bloodstream and can be used for fuel right now, but fructose is something that has to be metabolized by the liver first, and then if it can't get used, then it gets stored as fat. Okay, last thing, and I dropped it, so I'll be right back. Okay, this one, sorry, this is one that people hate me for, but Truvia, it's everywhere. Is it better than sugar? I don't know, that's debatable, but it's got erythritol, which is another sugar alcohol, and guess what it's made from? If it doesn't say organic, like this other one did, like this one said organic, then it's implied it's genetically modified. So this one, the #1 ingredient is a sugar alcohol, which is made by GMO corn. That is the primary ingredient in this. 99.9% of this is modified it's modified food. It's GMO corn. And it's saying that it's, sugar alcohol, so it's healthier for you than eating sugar. So sugar alcohols, like I told you before, are not very good for the gut because they actually are fermented by bacteria in our gut, which causes SIBO and this distension of the stomach and stomach pain and poor digestion and poor energy and all those sorts of things like gastric distress and diarrhea and cramping and gas. Who wants that, right? Okay, so Reviana is 0.5% of this. And Rebiana is actually part of the stevia leaf. That is the only reason they're allowed to say that this has stevia in it, or that it is a natural alternative to sugar. So it's really not stevia. It's part of the stevia plant, but it's the non-optimal part of the stevia plant. And then natural flavors. It's so ambiguous. So this is just genetically modified crap that's just going to make things worse. So let's just recap again. The things that I recommend is this. This is where I recommend, if you're going to do anything, these are the two that I recommend. Cool? All right, that's it. I think that's enough information. Is there any other kind of sweeteners that you guys can think of that you like, that you use? Go ahead and put them below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope this really helps. But like I said, just try to taste the natural, flavors of food that they offer without all these sweeteners. Just see if you can appreciate food in a different way. Because our tongues right now are so numb to all of these things. We're having to add more salt, more sugar, more sour, more, because we can't even taste natural food. I guarantee if you start eating more real food, you won't need as much sweetener. But if you do use sweetener, stevia, 100% organic stevia is the sweetener of choice. Thanks for watching, Wellness Warriors, and I hope you're having a great one.